Hey, business building warrior, another great episode of Silent Sales Machine Radio. It's coming at you very quickly. We've got a guest today. His name's Elijah. He's a young man who's got a multiple million-dollar business using the strategies we teach around here, the replens model. He's been doing this full time as his only job for about a year. We interviewed him about a year ago, and just was starting to consider going full time. Well, he's gone full time. He's built a beautiful business. We dive in today and talk about some unusual topics that I think you'll find very helpful. He went through a Section 3 review. He's been through it. If you don't know what that is, that's when Amazon says, hey, we want to verify the validity of your inventory and verify your identity. And sometimes people get all worked up and nervous about it. I think it's the end of the world. Well, 99.9% of the time, it's just fine, unless you're a scammer selling bad inventory or you've been lying about your identity to Amazon. For the rest of us, you're going to be just fine. He talks a little bit about that. It was stressful, but he used the services of a great sponsor of our show, jeffschick.com. We'll stick a link in the show notes. You hear him on most Wednesday episodes around here. He used his services to help him navigate it, got through it. That was a few months ago. He's having a beautiful fourth quarter right now as we recorded this in late December of 2024. Big plans for 2025. He's going to expand, get into some more opportunities that he discusses on today's program. But it's a two-man operation, just him, one other person. They've got a more than $2 million business operating at great margins. They've really dialed in a beautiful system, and I think you're going to enjoy and benefit a lot from spending some time with him. He's planning on being at our conference in May. If you haven't made plans yet to join hundreds of us in Orlando, Florida, the last 3 days of May 2025, you need to make plans to be there. The website is theprovenconference.com, theprovenconference.com. Recently voted the top reseller-focused Amazon community and conference in the world. Quite an honor to have received that after thousands of sellers voted around the world about their favorite Amazon tools and resources. And guess what podcast came out number one? Sorry to keep repeating it, but it was us. We were the top voted podcast as well. So a lot of great awards pouring in lately. And it's a testament to how hard the team around here, there's about 100 of us in leadership roles in this community, serving in different capacities, helping you build a beautiful business, using the internet creatively, starting off primarily with Amazon, which is what our student's talking about today, Elijah Upsall. That's who we're going to meet. But we love seeing you move into other diverse income streams as well. That's what this show is all about. We love being on this journey with you. Well, let's jump over and spend some time with Elijah Upsall. One of the things to look for today, I think, was a really good conversation we had about his strategy above the buy box. He's using it in some pretty creative ways. We spent some time talking about how it works and why it works. You're going to enjoy that as well. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the above buy box strategy, I'll stick a link in the show notes today so you can go investigate that a little bit more. There's a module inside the Proven Amazon course that really breaks it down for you as well. But let's get over and spend some time with Elijah. You're going to love hearing an update from this guy. So Elijah, welcome back to the show. Good to see you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim. I appreciate you.
Right in the middle of a busy Q4, lots of stuff happening as we're recording this, the busiest time of the year for a lot of sellers. But thanks for carving out some time with us today. But man, let's get into it. Maybe we can start with a little recap because you've been on the show before, and then jump into what's happening these days.
Yeah. So quick recap. I have been reselling products in general since end of July in 2023. And so I found Jim's group, and your wonderful crew of a massive crew, I should say, of 70, probably now 80,000 members. And you guys helped me get into Amazon at the forefront, and I did a pretty well, in my first 5 or 6 months. And then I eventually transitioned to full time. That's kind of where Jim and I left off last is I took my business full time. We were just creeping up on $1 million in revenue and sales. And yeah, so that's kind of where we left off to catch everyone up. And this past year has been a very busy year. I've done all the prep in-house. I have one full-time employee that works with me in the warehouse. But outside of that, it's kind of a a one-man show. And so we do a lot of OA, a lot of RA, a lot of wholesale. And we're trying to shift our business a lot more into wholesale as we head into the new year. Yeah, but that's kind of a quick little recap of, how we got into the business and where we're at now, and a quick little timeline there. But I'm excited to be back on the podcast and excited to, reconnect with you and, touch base. So.
Yeah, that's a great summary of where you're at and where you've been. And I appreciate the shout out to the community, and you're a valuable part of that. And you post frequently in the Facebook group. And I know it hasn't been all sunshine and rainbows. We don't want to misrepresent the journey that you've been on this past year, but it has ultimately been a good year, as you were saying.
Yeah.
So maybe let's pick this apart. What's working well for you? What are your challenges currently? Like let's break down the reality of a guy who. What are your numbers going to be for total sales for the year, approximately, as we're wrapping up the year?
We got about 10 days left. We'll probably end right about 2.1 million in sales.
Okay. For a two-man operation.
Yeah, and so we're busy though. I'd like to say we both work a fuller time job, is what I like to say.
Right.
It's not just a full-time job; it's a fuller time job.
It's fuller than
because typically, it's wake up, get to that warehouse, get the product moving, and when the lights at the warehouse, go off, so to speak, the computer turns on, the spreadsheets get opened up, online websites, the catalogs get sourced through. And so there's a lot between behind the scenes and, physically in the warehouse. There's just so much to do that it's almost like you can never do enough in your business. There's always more you can work on, whether it be, transactions to log on your buy sheet, or, transactions to categorize in QuickBooks. And that's another thing. There's so many things that you have to do multiple times and account for multiple different times along the way. So yeah, it creates a lot of work. But this year we should close right around 2.1. We're right at about a little over, I think we're at 2,070,000, something like that right now. So we should, our inventory is depleting. So it's like we're trying to restock as our fulfillment's kind of selling out, and, stock merchant fulfilled. So it's been kind of a scramble there. So
are you mainly merchant fulfilled, or you do some FBA as well?
So that's a good question. This entire year has been a lot of Amazon fulfillment and Walmart fulfillment. So we're multi-platform. We're not just on Amazon. We'll probably do 50 to 100,000 throughout the year on Walmart. So we do a lot of Walmart fulfillment through Walmart. Within Amazon this year has probably been 80% Amazon fulfillment, 20% merchant. Now, this coming year, right now, like today, we were probably 60% merchant, 40% Amazon. And heading into the new year with certain policy changes and stuff like that, I think I'm not using Amazon fulfillment anymore. I think there's too many changes going on there. And so I'm a big advocate for merchant fulfilling, because not only do you have less liability with product not being in your own warehouse and having to pay removal orders and things like that if you need it in your warehouse, but there's just there's a big like cash flow improvement that happens there. Throughout the year, I probably on average, when I would send shipments in, and we use 2D barcodes. I'm not sure if everyone in the audience knows what those are, but it's a different kind of label that you can use when you're sending into fulfillment centers to hasten the check-in period times and things like that, or supposedly it's supposed to help with check-in fulfillment times. And we're still at probably 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the time of the year, 2 on the quicker times of the year, 4 on the slower times. And so given that, I mean, a whole average of 3 weeks in delay of cash flow, that's huge. And so as we changed a lot of our business to being merchant fulfilled kind of forcefully this Q4, I opened my eyes to holy cow, not only is the cash flow quicker, but then there's also more margin being made I don't know if a lot of people realize, but when you get multi orders, let's say someone orders two bars of chocolate instead of one bar of chocolate. When you're merchant fulfilling, you only pay one shipping fee when you're
You can put them
sending
both in
them
the
two
same
bar.
bag. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So let's say, they're in a small 6x9 poly bag that weighs under a pound. It's going to be $4 or $5. Let's say you're selling the bar of chocolate for $15 on Amazon. Well, that right there, you're saving like a crap ton of margin by merchant fulfilling those two bars of chocolate. The FBA fee on those two, for example, would probably equate to being 50 cents, maybe $1 more than the shipping costs, especially if you have bulk shipping deals with your carriers and got a good contract with USPS or UPS, then you get those FBM rates down even more. So yeah, we're super excited to kind of admit that we're not going to be using Amazon fulfillment very much anymore. I think it's a great option for those who are starting, and I used it my first year and a half. But at the current rate where we're at now, with the cash flow we have at our disposal, all the product that we like to fulfill, and the space we have to fulfill it, it makes sense for us in our business to be a lot more merchant fulfill, and that's just the reality of our situation.
Yeah. I
So
think you're going to
it's
encourage a lot of people who have kind of scaled up to the 5-figure a month level or more to say, yeah, do I need to maybe fulfill some of this myself and do the math and test it out? Have you noticed
yeah.
any changes in your ability to move product? Like, does the buy box rotate to you less, or does the momentum slow at all when you make that change?
It's a great question, and I would say it all depends ASIN per ASIN or product
Yeah.
by product. The higher moving stuff, no, I
No
honestly
difference.
don't think it doesn't seem like it makes a difference. You
Hmm.
might be able to get a higher buy box share on average FBA, but when you look at what the kind of increment of improvement there versus the extra cost you're paying Amazon in not getting those multi orders and
Hmm.
not saving on FBM shipping and all of those extra things taken into consideration. Looking at my business from a macro scale, it makes more sense financially for us to kind of pull the trigger and be more merchant fulfilled. And who knows, maybe I'll make the switch and realize month 1 or 2 that it's about even Stevens. Maybe we're saving a little bit of money, but at that point, if we're only saving a little bit of money, it's probably worth it to just offload product to Amazon fulfillment and not have that headache. So that there's always, things you try in the business that don't end up working the way you wanted them to.
Sure.
And then you may have to revert back to what you were doing. So it's all,
Yeah.
some of these things are trial and error. And I think I'm right about the merchant fulfilling, though. We had multiple today that, I mean, it's like we probably made an extra $300, $400, $500 just today on shipping, because right now is the time of the year where people are paying for next day shipping too.
Right.
And
Guaranteed
so
Christmas.
those it's like I had probably 8 to 10 orders today that people paid for second day or next day. And I have my shipping settings set up to where I charge people quite a bit if they're ordering next day, because I know it's typically, if I order true next day shipping, if I have to order true next day, it's going to be probably $30 out of my pocket. So I make sure I front load that cost. Well, sometimes you can ship stuff next day with regular UPS ground if it's close to you. And
Hmm.
so you're paying $5, $6 for shipping. The
Charging
buyer's
30.
paying you 36 or whatever you're charging.
Yeah.
And so that's a whole piece of margin that you would lose if you went
Yeah.
FBA. And so there's a lot of just extra bells and whistles that can come your way if you switch to merchant fulfilling. But obviously, it really only makes sense if you have all the space to store your product.
Hmm. You're
You have
organized.
the proper employment to fulfill all the orders on time and
Hmm.
make sure you're separating out the next days from the normals, and there's a lot of checks and balances you got to go through and make
Yeah.
sure you got all the right things on your side of the table to make it all happen. So
Yeah, I love what you said earlier. You're smart to start off with just FBA, send it all in. But as you grow and mature and you have realize you've got this merchant fulfill option, you're going to have some margin opportunities. And another observation from what you just said is, Christmas every year, I've seen it every year for 14 years, FBA gets a black eye and merchant fulfilled looks beautiful. But then things settle back to normal come February, March, and that's when you really know what you're up against. But November, December are such an anomaly where Amazon can't get the stuff processed fast enough. And everyone's thinking, oh, I should have just merchant
yeah,
fulfilled. The merchant fulfilled, the fast moving ASINs, shoppers are able to have more, what's what I'm looking for, more options, merchant
right,
fulfilled. You can be selling stuff that's in a shopping cart before you check out at the front of the store. And it's like, because you're
right.
listing it and you're going to ship it yourself. You don't have to wait for it to get checked in at Amazon, right? So that stuff that moves really fast in the holiday season, it makes sense to merchant fulfill. You miss out on some opportunities if you don't. So yeah, that's a good conversation. I
Exactly.
didn't expect us to spend that much time on that particular topic, but that's very valuable insights as to, because sometimes people want to reduce it down, which is better. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, the fact that you're even asking that question tells me you haven't been around very long because there's such a nuance to both. But it sounds like in your
Yeah.
business, it's a safe bet. You guys are going to be doing a fair amount of merchant fulfilled next year, and glad you're doing it.
Yeah, yep. I think we'll make the full switch for the most part. I mean, there'll be pallets of product we'll ship off FBA because
Sure.
the ASIN might just only move FBA, and it might make the most sense to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say next year it'll be a solid 80-20, 80% being merchant, probably 20 FBA. So yeah.
Very good. Yeah, they have to update us on how that goes, man. Well, what else is going on in the business? How are you finding new ASINs? Do you spend your time looking for new ASINs more, or just fulfilling the ones that you already have? Like, where's your focus strategically there?
It's a good question. So I'm kind of at a shifting point in that. I've been fulfilling, this year has been a lot of fulfilling the great products and ASINs that I found in the first 6 to 8 months of my whole reselling journey. And so this year, I really haven't done a whole ton of sourcing. I've probably spent less sourcing this past 12 months than I did in my first 2 months of reselling, because my first 2 months I had no product awareness. I had no idea what sales occurred where, how much you could get for cash back here, how much discount gift cards were over there. I had no experience with anything because I came from real estate and I don't buy things for myself. I'm not a big shopper. So I basically came from a background that had no idea about anything, to do with reselling in general. And I kind of had to learn that throughout the entire process. But the first 2 months, I probably spent 8 hours a day, probably 6 to 8 hours a day on average. Well, I should say a night because I was doing real estate during the day and then sourcing at night. But I was probably doing 6 to 8 hours a night of sourcing for a good 2 months straight, like probably a day or two on the weekend off where I had something going on, but I just wanted to learn every market, try and figure out what niches sold the best, where I could get my foot in the door the soonest, and what would make the most sense to buy product wise. And so, with all of that being said, a lot of my product research and hard work there was put in on the forefront. And then I was kind of able to coast with that for a while, because a lot of the ASINs that I was selling up front, I didn't have enough cash flow to even meet the demand for. So it was kind of like as I got the ability to get more cash flow for the business, I funneled that into areas I already had access to, suppliers, distributors that I already had accounts with. And so I just kind of amped up those dials. And then now I'm at a point where those dials are kind of turned up for the most part, to the max ish capacity. I could probably, grow a little bit more where I'm at, but I'm at a point in my business where I definitely have to start adding more avenues to purchase product from.
Right.
And so we have some exciting, things in the works with trying to get into like the grocery realm of things. We don't do a ton in grocery right now, and I know it's a massive replenishable good market on Amazon that's always going to exist. And so I really want to get my foot in the door with like a good grocery distributor and really kind of niche down a column of our business in like the snacks and candy and non-perishables, anything that essentially we don't have to keep refrigerated or frozen. I'm cool with any of it. So that's kind of our 2025. I have a few different goals for our business, and one of them is going to be to, really hone in on grocery and kind of master that category, because I know that whole realm of products is definitely more than we need to spend money on. There's plenty of room to grow just within that category. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of our next venture. We're pretty big into, clothing, personal care, electronics, really big into toys and games too. But grocery's been one where I've maybe bought in a couple pallets of groceries from Costco and things like that I've scanned and, oh, that's a good one. Let's buy these, truffles or whatever they are. And it's worked out well, but I haven't really beaten down the doors of any grocery distributors or done anything to get a good connection over there. So we're
Right.
excited to start, following up with certain accounts and putting in that work to hopefully get one of those connections in the first quarter of the new year. That's kind of the goal. So
Understood. And I'm assuming you use Keepa to help you make
oh yes.
decisions. I just wanted to get the obvious out there. I haven't run into any proven Amazon course students yet who wasn't fully embracing and
I
understanding Keepa and the
if
necessity of it. You got any Keepa insights for us? Like, how do you use it, and what's
oh
your?
my I mean, well, one, if an Amazon seller isn't using Keepa, that's like
Yeah, they're flying
that's
dark.
that's very worrying to me. That's
Yeah.
like someone telling me they're blind driving a car.
Or flying an airplane. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like you shouldn't be doing that. But Keepa is a wonderful tool. I don't use it to the fullest capacity.
None of
I
us do.
definitely need to. The product viewer I use a ton for when I have like spreadsheet work, and I
Mhm.
have, let's say, a new list of toys and games from my distributor, and it's 800 line items long, and it's all single SKU, it's single UPC products, no case packs. I love using the product viewer to piece through long lists of UPC'd items. The product finder is obviously one of the best tools, and there's so many different criteria, intricacies that you can change, and
Right.
the power of that tool alone on Keepa should cost quadruple what
Oh,
Keepa,
yeah.
charges in general. I don't know who owns Keepa, the company, but the fact that they don't really mess around with their price at all, and they haven't since I've joined, and it seems
Right.
like it's a very reasonable price.
Yeah.
They deserve a big round of applause, because they could have tripled, quadrupled,
Yeah.
quintupled their price by now, and you and I and all of the other sellers would have already paid it very, very happily. So it's
Once you know how to use it,
cheers.
yeah, it helps you. In so many ways, it's impossible to list. That's why
Yeah,
sometimes people say, "Oh no, I know how to use Keepa," and I'm like, "You just basically told me that you're new to the game," because there's so
yeah.
many ways to use that tool.
Right.
And I
And
love
that's
going in and
that's just the tool side of it. We're
right,
not even talking about the data and the charts like that. Without that, you may as well not even be, buying and selling product, because you don't know, the price could show at $100 on Amazon, but there might be data showing that people sell it at 180 all the time,
right.
so yeah, you're driving blind if you're not using Keepa. And it's funny, because I always see every so often, I'd probably say every week or every month, you'll throw out a post and say, look at guys, I got another sale, $60 above buy box. People are
Mhm.
selling this product I buy for $20 for,
Yeah.
38.99, and I'm here selling it at 80. And I see it time and time again in our business too. I've sold things for literally double what they've ever even shown buy box to ever be, and here I am selling it for double that. And it's not even, taken into consideration on the charts and things like that. So
Mhm. Yeah,
Keepa
once
is
you learn how to
wonderful.
recognize those, so do you feel like you understand the buy box above buy box theory that we've rolled out? Have you used it
Oh
yourself
yeah,
much?
I've used it myself, especially with I like to use it especially in like toys and games because we
Yeah.
do a lot of like collectible toys where
Mhm.
there might be an allotment put out, from our distributor, and that's all that's being, it's not gonna they're not gonna re-release the same action figure in a
Yeah,
month or
sure.
2 months or even in a year. And so with those, we almost always list heavily above buy box. And we've found super good luck with that. And as well as other products, anything with high demand, you can
Hmm.
definitely get well above buy box.
Yeah. Well,
Anything with low demand, you still can, but it's just
yeah,
fewer
it's a
and
little
far
trickier.
between.
Yeah,
Yeah,
your odds diminish. The odds go up dramatically if it's a fast-moving product that's underserved with not enough FBA sellers.
right.
I'm curious, have you played above buy box with merchant fulfilled? I haven't at all, really, but I do hear occasional
So,
stories. But typically, it's the
yeah.
speed of delivery that's only available through FBA from a local warehouse. I mean, that's the whole theory of it.
Exactly. So I have, and it seems to be kind of in my local region, if you
Right.
will.
Because you can get it
I'm
there
up in,
fast. Yeah.
yeah, I'm up in the Midwest. So if someone's buying, a action figure that I have merchant fulfilled at a high price and they're
Mhm.
in Wisconsin and there's not a ton of competition on the listing type of thing, then I definitely can. But
Your date is more attractive as a delivery
yeah,
date than the
I'd
other
say
options.
right. FBA, you're a lot more willing to get that high buy box like price or way above box price, I should say, because the buy box doesn't even like show that it goes up there a lot of
Right.
times. It's kind of crazy.
Doesn't even
Um,
Keepa doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't even show that there's any action at that high of a price. But my favorite example
yeah.
of this for people who may not know what we're talking about right now, Elijah, I want to just share the story of one of the fairly
Mhm.
new coaching students who came through and really went all in on the above buy box with one of his first projects. And he went with one of his first ASINs. He went way deeper than I ever would have encouraged or coached him, but it worked out so well that it
It's
became
awesome.
a data point. So the product was being sold by 200 other sellers for a price point between $7 and $9. Typically, that was the buy box. 200 sellers, 7 to 9, maybe $10 is the top, right? That's the bulk, and that's where you had to be if you wanted any buy box action. He went in at $15. It's a dollar item. He went in at $15 and sent a bunch in FBA and sold 2,400 units in a couple weeks as the
Holy
highest
cow.
price of all 200 sellers. So I use that story as an example of helping you understand, like, how is it possible to be the highest price among 200 sellers and sell 2,400 units of anything? Yeah, it happens a lot. You need to understand that
Yeah.
people aren't just looking at the price, they're looking at the delivery date. And if you're one of only a few FBA sellers, or if your inventory is sitting in a warehouse near the shopper, suddenly they got 2 hour delivery as an option. They're going to pay an extra $8 to have it in 2 hours
Yeah.
instead of waiting until 3 days from now or whatever the other date options are, right? And he tapped
Right.
into that and just cleaned up. So,
It's awesome.
but there's millions of ASINs like that at any given time. If you know
Yeah.
how to look for them, again, using Keepa. So that's the
Right.
above buy box strategy. I just didn't want to leave anyone in the dust as we're kind of riffing on that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite, I wouldn't say brand new seller, but once you've sold a few things, you're having trouble finding things, it's kind of like takes the blinders off. Like, oh, wait a
Hmm.
second. There's a million plus ASINs right here that I could
Right.
test if I can find the inventory. And your buy
Yeah.
price doesn't matter because again, you're going to sell it well above buy box for your test. Hey, pardon the interruption for just a moment, but I've got to tell you about one of the favorite sponsors that we've had around here for quite a while, simply because so many people are using their services now. They're very popular in our community. Sellerboard loves us and we love them. What do? They help you know if your products are profitable. On an ASIN by ASIN level, you can dive into the details of which of your products are performing well and which ones need to be cut out, along with a host of other new, really cool features that they're constantly adding and innovating. It's a very inexpensive tool that's very easy to set up. And we strongly encourage you to go take a look at the special offer they have just for listeners to this podcast at silentjim.com/numbers. Jump over there, check out what they've got for us. For just a few dollars, you could get rolling and know your numbers later today. Hey, let's get back to today's episode. You're going to sell it well above buy box for your test. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what may have helped that student out in that situation was the fact that he purchased so many units and sent in so many units. So one thing being like coming from sending in one box of 20 units all the way to sending in, we've sent in shipments with over 5 figures of units, tens of thousands of units.
Right.
And when you do that, there's an effect that happens within the spread of fulfillment, that you get. So if I'm sending one FBA box of 20 units, that's going to one fulfillment center. And then if Amazon so chooses, they will then FC transfer from there. Now, what happens when you're sending in a massive shipment with tons and tons of boxes, you go to multiple fulfillment centers right away. Right. And then you get even further spread via FC transfers from there. So you get this kind of shotgun spread, if you will, versus just getting a little shotgun spread. Like with your one box, you're going to go way down. I'm like in the Midwest up here in the US. So my box would go like maybe down to California, and it might get spread out like right there. But if I'm sending 5 of these boxes, they're going to go to here, 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 and here, and then spread out to other fulfillment centers. And you get, if I'm in 5 fulfillment centers over here, I have quick delivery for this guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. And so you get the buy box, the seat at the table for the buy box. Whoever gets that crown is a culmination of 2 things. It's delivery time and price point. And so the big one, though, is delivery time, because if a lot of people aren't sending in a lot of units or they're merchant fulfilling, then the people who are doing the shotgun spread massive FBA shipments are going to get buy box way above you and at crazy prices because they have such a good delivery date. Right. And so I think that in that whole example, the 2,400 units definitely, I think that bode well in his favor in the whole situation. And if he would have bought a tenth of that, it probably would have taken him probably about the same amount of time to sell through a tenth of it that it did the full thing.
Yeah, I love your analysis
how that
there.
Stuff works.
Yeah, I would completely agree. He was possibly, Keepa didn't show him winning the buy box ever. He was the highest price of 200 sellers, but he very well could have been winning the buy box in local zip codes. Because again, like you said, he's the fastest option. Even though he's the highest price, Amazon's like, hey, maybe you want it in 2 hours. Here you go. Here's an option for you. So he would never know that, and there's no way for him to know that he won those buy boxes, because people think that
local buy boxes it's almost like untracked. And that's kind of
data. It's unfortunate.
Exactly.
I think that data needs to be shared.
I think it would be imperative for us as sellers to know that. If I had that information, I know for sure I'd be a better seller. Like I'd be able to sell
and Amazon knows
way more product, and hopefully they release that API data, and places like Keepa can give it to us in a bite-sized way, because that would that would be massive.
Yeah, I see that coming. He's just more informed. I can decide where I want to send my inventory based on the underserved shelf space. Right now, we rely on Amazon's algorithm, and it does a good job of sending it where they think it's most likely to sell, right?
Yep.
But given the opportunity to spread it out a little thinner, especially if I'm an above buy box seller with 20 units or something total, I want them in 20 different warehouses.
Yep.
I want to spread out my opportunities for someone to go, oh, there's one I could get quickly. Oh, that's fun. We kind of nerded out a little bit, but I think some people are going to hang with it. And not for your sake, Elijah. I know you've seen this post, but I've got a post in the Facebook group. A shortcut link to it is silentjim.com/BB70, as in buy box. I set out to find 70 examples from my own inventory where we're selling above buy box. I found 200, and I put them all in one post. so people can go through and see what the Keepa chart looks like on these opportunities. It's just a free good post for conversation. And I love to hear when sellers are using it successfully, because I get some pushback sometimes like, I don't get it. I don't think that makes any sense. It just, what it does is it opens up millions of ASINs that become testable,
Yeah,
worthy of test.
exactly.
Not
Hmm.
send in 100 units, but let's send in 4, 5, 10 units and test it above buy box and watch what happens. Worst case scenario, we break even. Best case scenario, we just found another smoking hot seller. And the other sellers have no idea that you're up there in the clear air making steady sales. And it's like, who's
That's
that
the
crazy
beauty
guy
of
up
it.
there? You've seen these
Yeah.
ASINs. Like, who's this guy charging $20 more than everybody? What's he thinking? Well, he might be thinking he's making a lot of sales, and your sucker's down there playing for the buy box. But
Yep.
yeah, I love it, man. Well, what else is on your mind? It's good hearing your
Yeah.
story, getting up to speed, but what else do you want to get into? Anything else that we haven't covered? I mean, I know that you did have a temporary suspension this year, right?
Yes.
So that
We
was
didn't
nerve
go
wracking.
down. Yes, we didn't get suspended or deactivated, but we had the kind of threat of being deactivated. And I know a lot of sellers have had that email where it
Mm-hmm.
says it mentions deactivation. I think most product quality and most authenticity complaints even mention deactivation in the email.
Sure.
But in our case, we got kind of a very intricate situation, and I'll try and make a long story short, but we had purchased $20,000 of product from a reputable distributor, and the product was cosmetics, and we listed on the branded product alongside 50 other sellers, and we started selling merchant fulfilled right away successfully. And day later, I wake up with a counterfeit IP complaint from the brand with a test buy. And so that whole counterfeit IP with the test buy evolved into a Section 3 review of our account. And the product we sold was not counterfeit or bad product. The brand themselves kicked everybody off the listing
Mhm.
using that counterfeit IP with test buy kind of mechanism to
Okay.
get people off. And so come to the resolution of all of it, we deemed our product authentic with Amazon. They released it. They didn't dispose of it. But after all of it was said and done, we learned that you can't ever know that you're going to be able to sell a certain product, a certain brand, a certain listing forever. And you can't know for certain that you're even going to be able to sell that day one when your product arrives. You might be able to be approved to sell a brand or a listing or an ASIN, and you might buy 100 units, or in our case, 2,000 units. And then when you go to list it, you might be restricted from that brand or that ASIN or that category or whatever it might be. In our case, that wasn't the situation. We just kind of got kiboshed off the listing after we were already on it. But the kind of moral of the story is you can't ever rely on one product, one listing, one ASIN, or one purchase from one distributor. You got to spread things out so that one thing doesn't hurt you to the nth degree. And in our case, like we're, $20,000 sounds like a lot, and it is a lot. It's not a little bit of money. That's a massive amount of money. But thankfully, you know, $20,000 of our liquidity in our company isn't even close to all of the liquidity and the cash flow that we are working with. So it's a small buy, even though it seems like a big buy. And so with that product, we got to get creative and literally go distribute the product to storefronts and places that can rightfully sell it, because this brand doesn't want anybody else selling their product on e-commerce. They basically took a stance right at the time of this all going on, of like, hey, let's clean up our Amazon, let's clean up our Walmart, let's clean up our eBay. They basically went exclusive everywhere at the same time. And so us being e-commerce sellers, that's all we're known to sell on. And so now we kind of got to get creative, and I'm sure all of you sellers out there that are starting to sell, have been selling, or have been selling a long time, will deal with this or have dealt with it. You're going to be left with product that's unsellable at a certain point, whether it be to restricted brands, listings, expired, goods, whatever it might be. And you just have to roll with the punches, deal with them the best you possibly can. Like in our sake, I'm going to go to, kind of ma and posh, like discount stores, think your smaller Nordstrom Racks and TJ
Mm-hmm.
Maxx's, and
Mm-hmm.
see if they want to buy some cheap cosmetics that they can put on their shelves. And if
Mm-hmm.
they need, I can provide them with a good invoice. And
Right.
honestly, I'll probably end up giving it to them for a third of what I paid for it so that they can really make a margin. And I'm okay with that because it's just sometimes you pay the price that is the cost of doing business. And so with our whole situation, I'm thankful to say that it didn't affect our account in any major way. Obviously, we had the complaint, but we were able to provide all the right documentation and get all the right assistance. Jeff Schick and his team really helped us out, especially right away with the counterfeit IP. I had
Right.
no idea what that was or what I should do with it. And so their team, they had already dealt with these things many of times. And they knew exactly what it would mean if I acknowledged it, what it would mean if I tried to appeal it, what I would need if I tried to appeal it, and all the kind of intricacies of what it meant to do either option. And so they really were able to inform me of kind of the full lay of the land so that I was able to make a decision for me and my business and my account to, hey, should we appeal this? Should we acknowledge it? What should we do? And we eventually, I don't even know which option we ended up rolling with, but we got through it. We got the counterfeit IP situated. The Section 3 was a little bit more scary. They try and, get you on a call and you have to get on camera. And, it is a little bit nerve wracking because you know that your entire account and the future thereof is reliant on what you say on the call, what you do, the stuff you're providing to them and all of that. But anyone who is dealing with one or will deal with one or hasn't dealt with one yet, when you do, because if you sell on Amazon for a long period of time, you're going to deal with one. Try and not let it wreck your nerves because it's really not that big of a deal. They literally just want to make sure you are who you are. You own the business that is on the account, or if you have a business on the account, that your product is authentic and it comes from a good supplier. And that's really all they want to prove. And if you're a good seller, which I know all of the people listening to this are, you're going to be able to provide all of that stuff to them. It's just about showing it in the right way. And my full recommendation is to literally get every single thing they ask for and more, have it printed out, have it digitally saved, have it ready in all different ways, and have it very digestible for them. Maybe even with a cover sheet showing, cover sheet for personal documents. Number one, driver's license front. Number two, driver's license back, and go page by page because these employees at Amazon who are reviewing these appeals and things like that, they're not paid the highest wage. They're not given the most amount of time to review your stuff that you're providing. And so a lot of times they're being paid low. They're given a set amount of time to review your documents. And if you don't make it digestible for them and very easily to work through, then they're going to just hit the deny button. And then you're going to be back at square one trying to appeal it the second, third, fourth, fifth time. And from what I've heard, the more you appeal, the more you try and appeal, the more you try and prove things, the harder it gets to prove. It's kind of like they keep pushing you further down the deactivated bucket or the suspended bucket to where you're almost at the bottom of the bin. You feel like you've been, forgotten about. And so if you give that first kind of appeal, the first submission, everything you got, give it all in a cover sheet, give it all outlined how it's on the cover sheet. That's like my big couple pieces of advice for everyone, when it comes to appealing these Section 3s and, providing all the documentation to Amazon is make sure you're doing it in a good way. Make sure it's all outlined very clear and concise. Make sure you're providing all the quantities they're requesting, and everything should be all good. You shouldn't ever have any issues. And if you do, it's just a matter of not being fully aware of what they need on their end. And a place like Jeff Schick and his team will be able to tell you, like, look, this is exactly what they need. And they'll probably even help you, kind of draft a plan of action. With me, they didn't have to, because we didn't get deactivated, so we didn't have to like fully appeal with the plan of action. But they helped us, with the cover pages and figuring out how to, provide the information to everyone, in the right way. So, they're
tips,
scary.
man.
They're scary, but they're you can get through them. Everyone can, and especially if you're doing business the right way.
Well, I've seen, multiple times coaching more people than probably anyone else into Amazon businesses. We've seen it all. We've heard it all. The vast majority of these things that are super scary and you get freaked out, like 99 point something percent, it's all okay once the dust settles. It's just a matter of, okay, what do I got to do? It cracks me up every time the rumors start. Oh, Amazon's just trying to get rid of all small sellers. Like, if they wanted to do that, they could just delete your account, man. They wouldn't have to make you jump through hoops before they delete you. It's not that. It's they're battling tens of thousands at any given time, scam sellers selling counterfeit garbage and making it look like it's a legit invoice when it isn't, using someone else's driver license image. Like, they're battling that stuff to keep a clean marketplace. They've got to do these things. So like you said, if you're running a good business, you're going to sail right through this stuff. So don't listen to all the scary, noise out there. Amazon, in my opinion, has gotten better at speaking clearly about policy and enforcing it with consistency. They're better now than they've ever been. And when those two align, it just, you know what the rules are, you know how to stay inside the guardrails, and you can go fast. But when those two things get out of alignment, it gets confusing. But I think Amazon's done a great job in the past 18 months or so at understanding the policies we make have ripple effects. We've got to be clear. We've got to enforce them consistently. And I think they're getting better at that. I really do. So Section 3 shouldn't scare anybody. If you're running a legit business and you didn't steal someone's ID to set up the account, you're going to be fine.
No. Yeah. And honestly, I think part of my Section 3 had to deal with the fact that when I started on Amazon, they weren't doing the virtual calls and the identification checks that they're doing now. Yeah. And so I think it was just like, hey, let's double check that this guy's legit, because obviously he's gotten a couple of complaints from this brand, and I probably had one or two authenticities that I fully was able to get past previously. And so they probably realized, like, okay, he's gotten a couple bad marks. Let's make sure he's good, and that's really all they're doing. Yeah. They're not trying to deactivate you or anything like that. It's going to lose them money to deactivate sellers. And so their end goal is to get through it with a green light, just like it is for you. And so really just working with Amazon's team in the best way and providing all the stuff to them that they need is all you need to do. And that should be the only worry for anyone in the situation.
Well, we spent some time on some good topics today, man. This was good. I wasn't sure where we'd go. I love doing these update episodes with people who made the leap to full time. How are they doing a year later? Always great. Yeah. I love it at all levels, but those are fun episodes for me because it just, these are very real people, and this is how they make their living. And I think the future is bright for you. One question I do want to bounce off of you, man. Have you checked out the system yet as far as automating your workflow? Are you willing and open to play with that, or where are you at? Because I think you need to check it out personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all game to automate workflows. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but
okay. Well, you've been nose to the grindstone. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Hang, a leader in our team, he's got about $3 million replens business. He uses the same small team, 2 people, and he does mostly all FBA, a little bit of merchant fulfill. But he designed a workflow software that handles everything. He doesn't use anything else except Keepa. So if he gets an IP complaint, click a button, here's that ASIN and every invoice associated with it. Boom. Like seconds later. I say all those little things that take up time, or when you're checking an inventory, which ASIN does this belong to? It's like, boom, it's instant. No spreadsheets anywhere, right? If spreadsheet, it's just every time you touch a spreadsheet as an Amazon seller, just think, I am wasting a ton of time and money right now, right? But a lot of us do. So it takes all that out, and it's a complete workflow system. You load your ASINs into it, and then it tells you when it's time to go back and check them out because it's monitoring Keepa for all of them. It's like, hey, this price is back where you said you wanted it to be when, time to order more. So
Yep.
it really reduces the whole thing down. And it
Very
sounds
cool.
like you've got a pretty streamlined process, but it's worth you spending a little bit of time and checking it out. We've been talking about
Yeah.
it a lot around here the past 6 months. We've had 200 people go through the beta. Software's live now, and it's really doing well. People are reporting great results with it. So I think it's just something you should check out.
Yeah.
Our new sellers are all starting off, for the most part, coaching students. We start them all off with this. So they don't build this
Right.
Frankenstein system of 15, 20 different pieces of software. Those tools have their places, and some people aren't ever going to move away from them because they love them. But this is an option that keeps things pretty streamlined. We've really kind of automated, systemized. So worth you checking out, just as a tip
Yeah,
for you.
definitely. I'll definitely check it out. We're always wanting to, improve our systems and
Yeah.
try and stay with the edge, because the edge is always changing in this business. It seems like there's always new softwares, new tools, and if you're not evolving with everyone else, you're going to be left behind. That's the way I look at it. So
Yeah. Well, it's the website for you, Elijah, and for anyone else is silentjimdotcom/the system. And that takes you right to it. You can study up on it a little bit. But the thing that it does to your business is it makes it an asset that could be sold or handed to someone else.
right.
Because right now, the amount of training, like let's just imagine you were going to turn over the keys to your business to someone else. How much time and training and how painful of a process would it be compared to, here's the software. I've got one guy in the warehouse, I got a VA, and I just check my stats. Basically, the software kind of runs the business.
Yep.
It's a very different prospect to be able to turn that business over to somebody versus, here's the 50 hats you're going to have to wear kind of thing. Right. So you can get it to that point. And I think you're
Yeah.
on the cusp of having that. I really do. I think you're on the cusp of having that and being able to diversify your income streams, free up your time, which if we had a coaching session, that's where I'd be pushing you out of the warehouse, stop touching box tape. Let's get you into more of a working on your business instead of in it role, explore some other income streams. But time for that another day, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I'm always looking to grow and looking to take next steps and things like that. I should be less in the warehouse. You got that right for sure. It's just, I like being in the warehouse.
Sure.
There's almost like a calming effect for it. I got into the whole Amazon business through prep, and if whoever's watching this listens to my first episode, there's the whole story about that. But I basically prepped product for a warehouse before I even knew
That's
what
right. I
Amazon
remember that from
was.
your story. Now that you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to find
Yep.
that old episode.
So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's kind of a sad time though. My grocery warehouse buddies, they're on to bigger and better things actually. So they're at the current stage of getting out of Amazon and into, kind of like you're saying, diversifying into other businesses and, doing stuff with the wonderful, profits that they were able to, accumulate from their Amazon business. So yeah, I actually just went to their warehouse today and saw them, and they got their last shipment in and they're cleaning through it and everything. And yeah, it's crazy because they, both of them didn't know what they wanted to do after college and things like that, and eventually started up this small Amazon. Both of them started up a small Amazon thing, and 8 years later, they probably sold 20, 30, maybe 40 million on the platform. And they did a lot in just the grocery space and whatnot. But it's amazing to see what this business can do. It is truly life-changing for the people who might be watching this thinking that, oh, this might be another one of those schemes, another one of those groups that's just going to suck money out of me and not give me any money back in my pocket. That's the furthest, this business is the furthest from that. When Jim and his team mentioned business building warriors, that's legitimately what you're doing. And I've revisited that a lot lately because I see a lot of people getting out of the space too. As I see more coming in, I see a lot getting out. And, to be quite honest, I think it's truly because a lot of people out there aren't cut out to own their own business, their big business, so to speak. And so some people get, into the shoes of owning the Amazon business and find out that, holy crap, I got to like manage a VA. I got to source product every morning. Otherwise, product's not coming in the doors. And I essentially have to think about work 24/7. Like, not a lot of that crosses your mind when you're getting into the business, but when you're in the business, some people find themselves like, holy cow, this is a little overwhelming. So it's not something that's for everyone, but it's a great business to be in, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for us sellers. I think it's going to be a bumpy and difficult road, but I think all of us that can stay on the bumpy and difficult road are in for a very fortunate future. And I
I
think
completely
that's to
agree.
say the least.
Yeah, the numbers back that up. And to the degree that you can build systems and offload some of that stress and some of the tasks to others, right? It becomes an asset. You can get it to that level. But just talking about the numbers in the future and forecasting, e-commerce, someone just posted in the Facebook group a couple of days ago, e-commerce is set to explode in the coming decade, more so than any other market sector. Like not airlines aren't going to do that. Uh, Travel in general, you look at the other segments of our economy, e-commerce, it hasn't even started yet in comparison to where it's going to be. And Amazon is about half the game. And on Amazon, we as resellers are about 35% of the game. That's trillions of new dollars that are coming into the game. We don't have to do any marketing. All we got to do is
Yeah.
go find the underserved shelf space and put product on it and put up with Amazon's occasional fee changes and policy changes and questions. Like
Yeah.
if you can handle that, man, the future of this model is incredible. I completely agree. There's got a bright future. But yeah, when you say not everyone's cut out, yeah, I think people get. I talked with a great couple from our community today. I just feel a little burnout on it. It's a little burnout. Maybe want to do something else. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. But Amazon's created more millionaires than any company in world history. So there you go. You got your choices. For me, I had a corporate job that I hated, man. And
Yeah.
for me to be able to have my own control of my schedule and put tape on boxes and ship stuff to people from home with my kids and my wife, it's like I don't care how inconvenient it feels sometimes, dude. There's nothing like this out there. It's beautiful,
Nothing. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's there's not much like it. I mean, owning other businesses, I'm sure is a similar feel.
Yeah,
But owning an Amazon cash flow based business, and especially in today's day and age with all the tech and tools that we have at our disposal, it's pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but it's very doable to build a kind of self-sustaining business, if you will, that you don't have to work, you know, 40, 50, 60, 100 hours a week to make happen. I still work a lot, of the time, but I'm choosing so that we can continue our growth trajectory. I want to be on the platform for many, many years to come, and I hope to close in on many, many more millions of sales. So
you will.
maybe private label in the future, maybe
Sure.
some brand exclusive contracts. We'll see, but for now, we're going to continue just churning our cash flow with wholesale and OA, and eventually we'll probably try and create our own brands and stuff
Mhm.
like that eventually too.
Well,
So
you're positioned for all kinds of incredible opportunities with what you've established, and well, we probably need to wrap this episode up, man. This has been a longer episode after a long day for me. I don't know what your
yeah,
day's like, and it's Q4. I mean, I know you've got orders stacking up,
yeah,
Mr. Merchant fulfilled. So, yeah, we
yep.
gotta
We can cut it. I appreciate you, Jim. Though, thank you for your time.
appreciate you so much too, man. I'd love to see you come into our conference in May.
I do want to. That's one thing this year. I've found myself so much in the mix of the work, and kind of like you said, I probably should be less in the warehouse, more working on the business than in.
Yeah.
So I
You
think this
benefit.
year I'll be more at, conferences, more working on the business than in. I have a great manager who runs my warehouse, so getting another guy in there too with him shouldn't be a problem. So
Yeah. Well, if you could carve out the time, man, last 3 days of May, come down to Orlando with us. You'd absolutely love it. So you haven't been to an event before.
I have not.
Oh,
No,
I'm
no.
telling you, man, it'll be a life-changing experience for you. You're absolutely going to love hanging out with this community. As great as it is in the Facebook group, that's like,
Yeah,
1/50th of how cool it is to be in a room full of the energy and the camaraderie, the ideas. You're going to leave with a list of 50, like, I got to go back and do this right now. Why didn't I start doing this a year
right.
ago? You're just going to be so motivated and encouraged by it. Yeah. So I'd love to have you there, man. But yeah, let's wrap it up.
Definitely.
Good to hang out with you today,
Perfect.
Elijah. You've been a great guest. And for the listeners who hung out with us today, hey, we've got hundreds of episodes like this where we interview the successful students from the Proven Amazon course, our coaching students. We love spending time with them, getting to know them, and sharing their stories with you to inspire and encourage you. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, good news, we got a whole bunch more of them. Just scroll back in time. Thanks to our guest, Elijah. You did a great job today, man. Appreciate you, buddy. And to all the
Thank you,
listeners,
Jim.
God bless the business building warriors out there. We're in your corner. We're here for you. Let us know how we can help. All right. Appreciate you, buddy. See you all soon.
All right.
Hey, thanks for listening today. One last shout out to today's incredible sponsor, Seller Board. You can go check them out at silentjim.com/numbers. And if you don't know what they do, here's a quick reminder. They help you know which of your listings on Amazon are profitable. Which products should you cut out of your inventory? Which ones should you maybe go a little deeper? It's not an instinct-based decision when you're thinking about your inventory. Use a tool that can help you make really good decisions. They have a whole bunch of other cool features as well. Get over to silentjim.com/numbers and find out more. Thank you, Seller Board. We'll have another great episode for you very soon.